Good evening. The day has finally arrived. I'm Gleaves Whitney, and I'm proud to direct the Hauenstein Center for Presidential Studies and its Cook Leadership Academy here at Grand Valley State University. And as I look out at this auditorium, I am especially proud of 40 outstanding young people who've come through our Cook Leadership Academy, fellows who are starting a new chapter in their life, fellows of whom we're very, very proud. And I know that I speak for President Haas and Chad Dowding and all the staff of the Hauenstein Center for Presidential Study when I tell you that we believe in you, we have cherished our time with you, and we know that as you go out into your communities and state and nation, you'll do us proud. That is, after the parties this weekend. In addition to recognizing our CLA class of 2018-2019, I'd like to welcome you families. Now, parents, you thought you were empty nesters, but guess who's coming home for dinner? Now, of course, I'm just kidding, because if there's one thing that unites Lakers is that they're prepared to go into great jobs and great graduate programs after their experience at Grand Valley. I also see the Hauenstein family and the Hauenstein Center members whose generosity will feed us later this evening. We're going to have wonderful food afterwards. And I think that'll provide laughs as we watch the students take this last opportunity to stuff meatballs in their pockets. And if they follow the Gleaves-Whitney diet, what they'll do is they'll stuff their pockets also with cookies and leave behind those vegan fritters. I'd also be remiss if I didn't say greetings to James Williams, great friend of Grand Valley, former dean here, who's president of Mount St. Joseph University in Cincinnati. Thanks for being here, James. Also see Gail Davis and so many people that we're so fond of who've played a key role, as has President Haas, in the development of the Cook Leadership Academy and the Hauenstein Center. Now, speaking of presidents, I have the happy duty of setting the stage for this evening's speaker, President Tom Haas, affectionately known to this audience as T. Haas. I say it's a happy duty, but it's also a very sad duty, because after serving as president of Grand Valley for these 13 years, he's going to be retiring on June 30th. Now, I know he'll still be around, but we're going to miss him in his official capacity as our leader. Tom, we're going to miss your dedicated stewardship to this great institution that you've added so much credit to. And we're going to miss those selfies, of course. Your mission has been our students' success, and our students have just done better and better under your stewardship. And we'll miss how you've actually inspired all of us, students, faculty, and staff, to go on and do grander things in our tenure here at Grand Valley State University. And Marcia. Marcia, where are you, Marcia? Where are you? Marcia, yes, we're going to miss you so much. We're going to miss your warmth and all the years of service and all the ways you've given to our Laker family, our growing Laker family. Thank you for all of your service as well. Thank you both. So this evening gives us a fun but very poignant opportunity to say to our beloved President T. Haas and to our wonderful First Lady, Marcia, thank you for all you've done, and hasta la vista. Please give your attention to the video.
Good morning, everyone. Some of you already know your next steps, and some of you are still searching for that next goal, your next challenge, your next opportunity. Life is a wonderful adventure, filled with triumphs and tragedies, but it should always be filled with hope. Always be filled with hope for that next triumph. I have a steadfast belief that we should leave a place better than we found it. I'm in my last year as president of Grand Valley. Along with my wife, Marcia, we have had the privilege of being the best stewards that we know we can be and how to be. Along with that, we have had the pleasure of watching many students blossom in their time here. We have taken our obligation seriously and watched your successes joyfully. You have been a great part and time of our stewardship of this great university. and we are indeed very, very grateful. You will have an effect, and we call that the Laker effect. I am filled with optimism because of you. Congratulations, and go Lakers!
Go Lakers!
Go Lakers! Go Lakers! Go Lakers!
Thank you, Gleaves. Thank you for the staff, and thank you all for being here, and I'll be able to share a few words with you during this time together. And James, thank you for being here. You honor me, you honor us here with your presence as well, sir. So thank you. And colleagues and others that are in the community that support the Hallenstein Center and the Cook Fellows and this great university, this grand university as we are affectionately referring it to. And then, of course, Marcia can't be any better than she, that's for sure. That's for sure. And again, great friends. And looking around, and I have great students that are here to listen to a few words. And then I also have one of my best golf buddies here as well. So all together, this is a special time in our lives as we really look ahead. People are saying, are you counting now? And I count up. And we have blessings in our family with new arrivals within the last year and a little bit, with a new granddaughter and a new grandson to go with the other grandchildren that we have been blessed in our family. So yeah, it really is a time for us to look ahead with Dr. Mantella. I know she's excited to come on board on the 1st of July. I've had some time with her one-on-one, and she is going to be the right person at the right time for this university as we look ahead with the momentum that we have. We're a young university. We truly are. Not even 60 years since we were founded in 1960. And we have done some remarkable things through the years, too, as an institution, as a Grand Valley State University. We do it, though, with one very important North Star for me, and that's a student centricity. That is what we are about here at this institution. Student-centered, to engage with our students with rigorous and relevant programs so they can succeed here, and then take those skills and behaviors and attitudes in some regards. I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes, to be successful in our world, because we, the students that are here, we need you. And I'm always filled with great optimism this time of the year when we celebrate and see those students walk across the stage. And I'm going to probably shake hands with about 3,500 between now and Saturday night. Every single one of those individuals have created their own adventure while they're here, and they're just beginning now to see what their ventures go after they leave here, and truly as Lakers for a lifetime. So I just wanted to say, in fact, well, let's do it this way. Our graduating students, please stand up. Here's the future, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Thank you. And I say repeatedly, the future is bright. And we've been able to be here on the shoulders of Ralph Hallenstein, Colonel Hallenstein, and Peter Cook, and so many others, and some of those individuals in the audience as well. They had the vision and the foresight to provide us the resources and the motivation to help our students succeed. And that, to me, is a noble calling here at this university. And knowing Ralph early on in my time here, it is truly a special time for me to maybe share one of my last opportunities, some words as well. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to stay to a script, but knowing me, probably not. But I truly am so pleased to be here with you and be able to speak and align that with the life of Colonel Ralph Hallenstein. And you all, the students, I'm going to focus primarily on you all in these next 15 minutes or so, but you have already achieved amazing accomplishments. And you will be recognized today, and we'll recognize you again on Saturday or Friday, depending upon when you're walking across that stage. But you are our future leaders. You are our future leaders, but you also, I think, after being here at this university, you are ethical leaders. I'm going to come back to that time and again in these remarks with you. Again, thank you to Gleaves for this opportunity. And again, as we both hold Colonel Hallenstein and Peter high in our highest regards. So that's important for us to understand. And Chad and the rest of the staff, phenomenal work that you have in making sure that our fellows here know the history of both Ralph and Peter, because that history is so important for us not to forget. These were individuals who had values that we want to highlight and exemplify for our students, our future leaders here, for our nation and for our world too. These two gentlemen were very, very successful. And Ralph came back as a war hero. In fact, he was significant in helping us during World War II. And he saw some of the worst of humanity during that period of time. But then he comes back here and built businesses. He was able to become then, through that, a major philanthropist. He was giving back to our community here. Before that, he was already along the pathway of being a journalist, and he worked at the Grand Rapids Press. And then, of course, Peter, remarkable story in his own way, one of the true entrepreneurs. And you know, in our DNA here in West Michigan, we have that. We are, in fact, rooted really here at this university in those entrepreneurs who wanted to make sure that they could give back and give back to a university just like Grand Valley State University. And so both of them had a trait, and that was being generous. Their generosity is unparalleled in so many regards. But what's really fun, too, is to know that these two gentlemen were very, very close friends. They were different in many regards, but their friendship kept them so well together. And I can tell you this is what bonded them together. They were ethical, they were honest men, they were family men with their wives as well. But it was their feeling that they needed and wanted to support education. Both of them wanted to invest in the future. Ralph, at 100 plus years old, was still looking for those investments. That's remarkable. But he knew that if he invested in Grand Valley State, invested in the students that we are able to serve and help them understand who they are as leaders, as ethical leaders, then he would feel very, very satisfied, and I think he's here tonight as well, along with his good friend Peter. And they always enjoyed having fun. They truly did. We saw that. Marcia and I had a chance to be with both couples, both with Peter and his wife, and Ralph with Grace, and it was wonderful to see them having so much fun. They lived long, good lives. I mentioned that Ralph was over 100 years old when he passed away, and Marcia and I were able to play cribbage with him probably 3 or 4 times a year. If you know cribbage, it's a card game, and you have to count. And he would have his cards counted before I even had mine organized. And that's true. But every time we would play, for some reason, he would win. And again, he would win. And we're wondering, what is this about? Well, he had the right DNA, I'll tell you that. I think it was fueled by Finlandia. Don't you think, Lise? Yeah, I think so too. Finlandia is adult beverage that's founded just in Ralph Hallenstein's cellar, I think. So, but they really did. In fact, I did hear this joke one time from Peter, actually, that between them they had 4 eyes, but only one of them worked. And but truly, they would tell stories. They would be full of friendship and fellowship as well. One of my stories I need to share with you about Ralph and Peter. Before I even started 13 years ago, I got a call from Mary Beth Wardrop. She was the VP for Development before Karen Loth, very good friends as well of the Hallensteins and the Cooks. And I got a call. This was, in fact, even before I was able to communicate with Gail Davis as the provost coming in, and which we did almost immediately thereafter. But I got a call from her and said, Tom, I need you to do something that's very, very important. And with Mary Beth Wardrop, you just say, yes, ma'am. And we did, right, Karen? So without a doubt. So what we were able to do is I called Rich DeVos first. And he was one of the 3 that Mary Beth Wardrop said. And we chatted for a little bit, got right through. He said, how do you spell your last name? This is Rich now. I said, H-A-A-S. He said, fantastic, AA, you're Dutch, you'll fit right into West Michigan. And I said, wonderful, we can do that. Then I called Peter Cook, and no, it's the other way around. I called Ralph first, and left the message on his machine. Said, this is Tom Haas, I'm going to be looking forward to meeting you in a couple of weeks. And I left that message, and then I called Peter Cook. And Peter got on the phone, he said, oh, good, I'm glad. Did you call Ralph already, or did you call me first? I said, well, let me tell you this way. I left a message on Ralph's machine, but I'm calling you and talking to you first. He said, good, now we've got that out of the way. But truly, the friendship and the relationship that they had, I felt even before I started here at the university. So, but here, what we have at the Hallenstein Center is built on the principles and the perspectives of Ralph, and again, through that friendship that he had with Peter. And the mission is clear. The purposes are clear: to foster strong ethical leaders. That's what it's about here. And that you are, in a way, the students that are here, shining examples of what we know that are the best and the brightest here in West Michigan, across the country, and indeed across this globe as well. And you are shining examples, I think, because of the example that we had with Ralph, of those that strive to integrity, with integrity, in all that you do. And we're here honored to really take that impulse and move it right along. That really is, it's truly that. So many of you and your family members, and I want to recognize them here as well. Thank you for joining in this celebration of these next few days. And I know that you made this trip to the campus early on, maybe not knowing in particular what is in store with your son or your daughter, but I'm hopeful that you understand that I truly am thankful that your student, and with your advice and counsel, chose us, and that we were able to serve them here at this university as well. And I know that your students, our students, your family members, are always striving for what's good, what's decent, what's important, and knowing them, that's key to our country's future. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. And that's what this is all about anyway, at the end of the day, to share a little bit of my perspective on leadership. And I want to talk to you about successful, virtuous leadership. Successful, virtuous leadership. Leading people is fine. It really is. But with noble calling that we have here at this institution, we want to make sure that our students have the knowledge and the tools to soar, but as ethical individuals, as successful, virtuous leaders. And as mentioned, I'll be finishing up, counting up the days to the end of June, it's been an honor for me to be here at this university serving our students and our faculty and staff and others in the community that see a great investment in Grand Valley State University, and those, as a public institution, of course, the citizens are providing some of those resources as well, even though I wish it was a little more, but that's another story for another day. But it's been also an honor for me to serve in our Coast Guard and serve our country and serve then our students, both as an educator and coach at the Coast Guard Academy as well. And I need to do this anyway because one of the individuals here in this audience is an individual that I've known for many, many years. Our new, not new anymore because they've been here for almost a year, our CFO was the Chief Budget Officer for the Coast Guard. But if we go way back, I work with his dad, and he's in our prayers with his passing. But Greg Sanyel, Dr. Sanyel, was one of my ball players when I was coaching at the academy. And before that, he was 12 years old at our home, and I have pictures of him when he was 12. He hasn't changed much at all. But that service within the Coast Guard, Greg, really has served us very, very well through these years. And again, successful, virtuous leaders. And I think when you see the alignment in our alma mater at the Coast Guard Academy and taking that through a career, and Greg's continuing his while he's serving here at Grand Valley as a retired now captain in the Coast Guard. But isn't that a wonderful sense of using our backgrounds, yes, in terms of the competencies that we might have, but truly as leaders of character as well. So over the span of my career, and I started thinking about leadership probably through my dad and my mom along the way, and then learning a lot about leadership with the students and the cadets at the Coast Guard Academy. You might have even been one of my leadership classes during the summer when I was teaching leadership at the academy. I teach chemistry during the year, and then I was teaching leadership in the summer program as well. But I know that one of the specific requirements of a successful, virtuous leader is you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions, sometimes tough decisions as well. And so there's a lot of roles and responsibilities we have as leaders, but I wanted to share with you my kind of vision of the 4 C's, but I'm going to focus in on one of them. But the 4 C's of leadership includes competency. You got to know your stuff. It goes without saying. That's why you're here, the students that are here, with great faculty and staff to give you that knowledge and skill set. You have to have that as one of the foundations. And then I think without a doubt, you have to have a commitment to yourself, a commitment to your family, a commitment to this country, a commitment to your profession, a commitment to your vocation, a commitment that is really deep within. And then I truly believe that the 3rd C is community. You can define that as broadly as you want. I do define it broadly because I think it's so important to understand that the individuals that make up different subsets of the community we have through attention with inclusion and equity and great diversity provides us a better team at the end of the day. And I found that on my Coast Guard cutters that I served and with offices that I served and across my entire career in education as well. So you have to have the knowledge and the competencies, community focus and a commitment, but probably what keeps it all together in my mind is character. Character. Character is what is owned by you. Individually, that's who you are. It's character. So let's focus on that. And really, good character is essential for a life well lived and for a career well spent. And without a stellar character that you own, that's who you are, you won't be truly successful. You might be a leader, but without that character that is so embedded into who you are to be successful, virtuous leaders, you won't be successful. You have to have that. You have to have that character. And so really, I've said this many, many times, that character, good character, is kind of the glue that holds the other C's together and produces a leader that can be counted upon. It truly is that leader that can be counted upon in good times and in bad times as well. So those 4 C's, but coming together with character. Life is tough at times, and there's lots of examples out there of successful, virtuous leaders. And I think of Helen Keller, for instance, an individual that had to overcome much. In fact, one of the movies that I do remember really impacting my life early on was probably, and I think it was black and white. That was last century, of course. But she was, of course, physically limited. But I remember watching Miracle Worker. And that, to me, was transforming. Here you have an individual that was able to overcome. And then she was able to use what she had with good mentors. And we have mentors here in this area as well. We have great mentors to help our students and others along the way. And so she then really became the first person overcoming those difficulties, being blind and deaf, to receive a bachelor's degree and then become a activist and a writer and an author herself. So her story, I think, continues to inspire us. And another one, of course, in my view, was the Diary of Anne Frank. So, but this is what Helen Keller said about character, and I'll quote this. Character cannot be developed with ease and quiet. Only through experiences of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. That, to me, brings it all together along the lines of her character, but that can be then used for your development of your own character as well. A story that I do remember way back when I was first stationed on the Coast Guard cutter Acacia. Marcia and I were just married. We were living in Port Huron, Michigan. But I do remember a challenge. It wasn't the same extent as a Helen Keller, but nonetheless, it was something that I really remember yet till today. We were working aids to navigation in Saginaw River, and one of my responsibilities was to ensure, with my signature, that the buoy was in the magenta. Remember that? Or we had to make sure it was there. And that was my responsibility. And the conditions, the weather conditions were pretty tough. This is very much in the late winter, early spring, just to start the commerce season here in the Great Lakes. And I'm saying, we're taking fixes with horizontal sextants like this, and we had everything, and I just couldn't, with the quartermasters on deck, couldn't verify without a doubt that we were within that magenta. Just couldn't do it. Well, the CO at the time said, "It's close enough." I said, "No, it's not." I just thought my career went out the window. Do you challenge your commanding officer with that? And I said to myself, yes, we must. Because there are seafarers, there's Lakers out there that are going to ensure that what we said is true, that it's within that magenta and they can trust us. So I wasn't just going to be pressured because the conditions were not so good and we wanted to get home. But no, you had to do the right thing in order to serve those that we were responsible for. So I pushed. And again, I thought my career was over. But nonetheless, I think it was the right thing to do because people relied on us, on our own individual character as well. So we finally got it in the magenta, a little bit more effort, but you know, that's okay. because I put my signature on that, as we should. So I'm not going to be, and I hope you all too, never compromise on that sense of your own character. I always say this time and again, the expediency is not always the right thing. It could be all right, but it's not always the right thing to do, especially if there's a compromise to one's character as well. And I, at that point, was committed to do the right thing for those that we were serving as Lakers here in the Great Lakes. And so we do have to understand those responsibilities that we have to others. And I wanted to make sure that maybe at this point in time, it was right and virtuous and being successful at the end of the day. Well, I've been using this word virtuous for a while now. Well, virtue is the quality of or practice of moral excellence. That's what virtue is. And successful leadership, then, I think, is based on virtue. Leaders do the right thing. They cherish their own sense of personal integrity. They serve others. Leaders serve others. Successful leaders do it with the notion of virtue. Ralph Hallenstein was a virtuous, successful leader. And he's an example for me and has been ever since I've been here at Grand Valley State University. And we have, throughout our entire lives, I have been, and I'm sure many people in the audience and now our students as well that are graduating, have wonderful role models and mentors along the way. And in my life, in my career, I had many great mentors. Probably the two of, and along the way, of my father and my father-in-law. My dad was, he never graduated from high school, neither did my mom. But what I learned from him was a work ethic. And he went to get a GED finally when he got back from World War II, serving in the Pacific Theater as a petty officer, third-class cook. And time and again, he would remind me and my brother and my sister that he might have been a cook, but he was in charge of morale. Well, think about that. That was his vision on having to support the mission of that destroyer in the Pacific Theater. He wanted to make sure that the crew was well fed, they were satisfied, and he had a role and responsibility. He was a petty officer cook, but what was he in charge of? Morale. That told me a lot about his character, about his understanding of the purpose that he had. And then Marcia's dad, wonderful role model. I was blessed to meet him way back in 1970 when I volunteered to be an escort in Port Huron, Michigan for the Cherry Festival. Marcia just finished high school, and I volunteered and showed up. There's a lot more to this story. But Marcia was there on the, along the dock area, and I said, "May I be your escort?" So I've been doing it for 50 years almost. And that's been wonderful. But along the way, I was able to really understand, again, virtuous leadership through Marcia's dad. Seaman A. Knapp is his name. He was a dairyman in Iowa, went to World War II. He was a Battle of the Bulge survivor. He was a major, then continued on in France, I think, then comes back to the States. Met Marcia's mom along the way and had a wonderful family, but then he served this country here by moving away from being a dairyman in Iowa here to Michigan, being stationed with the Civil Defense, which is now FEMA, and he was a leader, again, helping serve those in need, as he did during World War II. He had a recognition. We find this wonderful as far as military background with a Bronze Star, and all it says was meritorious service, signed Patton. That tells me a lot right there. I think Ralph probably could see that as well. But I saw with now Colonel Knapp, similarly as Colonel Hallenstein, with that same ethic of successful virtuous leadership. And he was devoted to his family and devoted to his country. And that to me is a mark as my dad as well. And there's others too. But mentors are important. Any mentors in this room, raise your hand. Thank you for doing that and stepping forward and helping our students achieve while they're here, and then giving them those habits that we need for them to be successful afterwards as well. And I encourage those that are graduating, as you move through your career, and it'll be a successful career, you'll be virtuous leaders of people of character from Grand Valley State University. Seek those opportunities to be a mentor for someone else. You can start it tomorrow. Why not? Because you can, and you have the ability and skill sets to do just that. You're going to help people along the way. And I think that is a true testament of our mission here at Grand Valley State University. But really, take a look around you and use your skill sets and your beliefs and your other types of background to help others succeed as well. And you can pull these others to be very much successful as they reach their potential too. One example I really want to report out is former Cook Leadership Academy fellow, who's now a mentor, Mary Daly Brown. And her story is very uplifting in helping women in developing countries, and it's truly inspiring. So I just want to read this. She found inspiration while on mission trips with her church when she saw women working from sunup to sundown and not being able to even sit at the table to eat what food they had cooked. They were marginalized and treated poorly with no chances of advancing their lives. Well, as an example of a successful, virtuous leader, she founded and runs a Grand Rapids-based organization called Sow Hope, which works on projects in areas of the developing world where women earn less than $2 a day. And this organization estimates that there was more than 1.5 billion women who fit this criterion. Well, since the decade that she started, she's been able to touch 40,000 women. 40,000, one at a time. Think of the ripple effect in these developing countries for those women who now have a way forward as well. But she used the ability that she had through the Cook leadership with the mentors that she had to make that difference in those individuals. And you can make that difference as well because you're where you are today. Another former fellow, Michael Hyson, he's a Navy veteran who's changing the lives for wounded warriors. I saw this, it's kind of fun. In 2012, he co-founded a not-for-profit, Fashion Has Heart, with a professional artist and designer. Their mission was to nourish the creative spirit of wounded warriors and to let them speak through their creativity. The veterans attend workshops, partner with graphic artists, design unique clothing items. And now he has a partnership with Starbucks. And you can shop online, and the veterans will benefit from that as well. Vision, a successful, virtuous leader, without a doubt. And he's serving others, as I think successful, virtuous leaders do. And there's plenty of other stories, Gleaves, from the Cook Fellows and also here at the Hauenstein Center. And I think what it does, it goes well with the tagline on where emerging leaders prepare to build our futures. Very much aligned with our overall mission of shaping student lives, professions, and society. And I know many of you here in the audience as students have emerged. And you are, in many regards, well beyond your years chronologically, but you have begun to nurture your own noble causing because you are already serving as well. And I'm again so pleased to see the efforts of a Ralph Hauenstein and a Peter Cook with their vision to see this academy continue to grow and see the center realize the vision of Ralph as well. And so what we really are wanting to do is drive towards then leadership excellence as successful, virtuous leaders. And a look at excellence. It comes from the ancient Greeks called arete. And that means at its heart, it's excellence of any kind. Be the best person you can be. I know that's a tagline, but nonetheless, it's powerful. And successful leaders, to be effective, are using their courage, their strength, and their wit to achieve outcomes. Just like Ralph, just like Peter. Courage, strength, and wit. I do like the wit part. That's okay. I like that. And in Plato's allegory of the cave, this idea of excellence should be your goal. It's something, though, that may not be able to be reached, but I think it says you can still continue to advance yourself along the lines of developing that excellence, developing the quality that goes with being a successful, virtuous leader. So striving for that with the intellectual and moral reasoning that you have is a worthy goal. It truly is. Leaders avoid compromising their values at all costs, and that takes courage. It truly does. I've mentioned a little bit of my story early on, but because without courage you can't practice any other virtue consistently. I remember getting a call back when the Valdez, and the students may know it from history. Those of my age knew it as a contemporary, but it's now been many, many years. But I remember getting a call at the Coast Guard Academy. I'm teaching chemistry, doing some coaching along the way. And the superintendent calls me in and said, well, Tom, Admiral Ciancaglini is going to be the on-scene coordinator for this Valdez oil spill. He wants you there. And what do you do when you have a two-star, and I'm a lieutenant commander at the time? You just say, yes, sir, when do I leave? So you do. And so I was able to join him and his team. I didn't know what I was in for. Maybe a little chemistry wound up, not much chemistry, but I was entrusted to create a database to monitor what was clean or not. We had to define clean. Who knew what clean was when you had this major insult in our environment in pristine Alaska? Well, we had defined that, and then something happened along the way. Exxon comes to Admiral Ciancaglini and said, do you remember Admiral Ciancaglini, the name? So he said, the Exxon folks said, Admiral, we got the best thing ever to clean up this oil spill. It's called Corexit. It's great stuff. Let me show you some pictures. This is before and after. Before you see this tarry, grungy stuff on the rocks and the beaches in Alaska. And then you fast forward, like magic, it was clean. It was remarkable. So I had to go out and test this out myself. I took one of the helicopters and went out, and I picked it up, and son of a gun, there it was. The tops were clean. The underneath was still pretty grubby. It was nothing more than kerosene that they had sprayed out to make it look good. So they wanted to go all in, Exxon did, and the Admiral was contemplating this because it looked good. And I said, Admiral, your name would go down in infamy if you were to sign off on that. And what it might be Exxon, and they may have big bucks, but we have character, don't we, sir? He said, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Successful, virtuous leadership. So we didn't sign off on that. We weren't going to compromise because it wasn't the right thing to do. So we pushed and said, no, it's not going to happen. We did find out some other really cool means of cleaning up shorelines with bioremediation. That was kind of nice to see that we could actually use indigenous bacteria and find that we could actually clean the subsurface of these shorelines as well using that. But it took some courage to go against a major corporation who wanted us badly to make it look good. We weren't going to do that at all. So I think really, when you look at some of these stories that I share with you, you have to be courageous. Maybe that's another one of those C's. But we also establish some self-control as well along the way. And that is maybe with the students here, delaying some of that self-gratification too. I know that you probably skipped a few parties to work or write a paper or help a friend. I'm sure of that. And those choices may be simple, but maybe not so. But some of the tests of your own value is questions on, is this cheating, or is it fair to all involved? Am I acting with integrity? You may do that instinctively. I hope so. Is it the best interest of others? And you have been trained well in many of those questions as you go forward from this place into the rest of your life. Actually, I like it this way. Is this the example I learned from Ralph and Peter and my mentors at the academy? And you know, you're going to live in a world that's much different than we see right now. It has changed dramatically just in my time here at the university. Think of what's happening with artificial intelligence, for instance, and other use of data and information. They're going to change the jobs. But you know one thing that's going to remain constant? As you are a successful, virtuous leader, your character will help you then navigate in some of these uncertain times that are fueled by maybe some of this technology that we have as well. And you know, just a good example, CRISPR, it's a gene editing tool. Is that going to challenge our idea of the future? If we're people of character, I think we will be leaders in that space. So we need moral, humane, and virtuous leaders who will be successful. Leaders who have an appreciation of history and of traditions. Leaders who use moral reasoning when trying to solve ethical dilemmas. And truly, there will be dilemmas in your lifetime. And some of these dilemmas aren't even defined yet, but they will be there. And we will need your help in navigating that in the decades and the rest of this century as well. Leaders with good character have an informed dialogue, I think, between the heart and the mind. It's an informed dialogue. Because you always know that sense of using your intuition, having that gut feeling. Is it the right or wrong thing to do? And you always see those cartoons with one a person over here who wants to do the right way and the other person over here maybe not so. And then you have that dialogue between the heart and the mind. One individual that was truly a great mentor for me, he was in fact my basketball coach when I was at the academy. He was a lieutenant at the time. He was a great basketball player at the academy. He wound up to become a 4-star admiral, but at that time at the academy he was teaching in government, and was a great teacher too, but he was a great coach. As a young freshman at the academy, Jim Loy was his name, Admiral Loy. And he's been here at the Hallenstein Center with the Cook Fellows speaking some years ago. And this is one thing that I will always take away from a mentor like Admiral Loy, like Jim Loy, Coach Loy. Trust in my word. Trust in my word. I could have condensed all this down into those few words, but a successful, virtuous leader has that because it establishes the trust that we want in our leadership. Trust in my word. Isn't that the connection between the intellect and the conscious? Trust in my word. That's the hallmark of good character in my mind. Trust in my word. And we do that in humble service to others. One of my watchwords, and as a good Coast Guard guy, I do have watchwords kind of give me the fixes along the way of my track line of my life. And I truly believe in service to others, but being a good steward along the way. Leaving an institution or a classroom or a group better off than you found it or them. being a good steward, being a successful, virtuous leader is an individual who can be looked at and their word can be trusted. They're good stewards of all those who are around them. So it's been an honor for me to serve our country with great leaders along the way. It's been an honor to serve as an educator and a coach. It's been a vocation of joy, frankly, to serve as president of Grand Valley State University, and I think along with Marcia in that same space. My joy, our joy, comes from watching students of good character, watching them develop as successful, virtuous leaders who are striving and need to continue to strive for moral excellence and take their place then as those successful, virtuous leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, our students that are here soon to be graduating and all that support them, I am optimistic about the future, especially this time when I see our students walk across the stage, many of them first generation, who are standing tall as I did on the shoulders of my mom and dad, as you do on the shoulders of your parents and those that came before you as well. I do know that Ralph and Peter would be proud to see all of you graduating today with big dreams and even a bigger promise, as I am as proud as ever to be here sharing a few words about being a virtuous and successful leader. Congratulations to all of you. God bless. Thank you. So it looks like we have maybe a couple of minutes for any questions that you might have, and I'll come out from behind here. Normally I'm not behind there anyway, but I wanted to stay on track. Okay. Questions that you might have?
You're so bashful.
Well, you know, I teach Chem 115, so I wait until the first question. I do.
President Haas, I'll be brave enough. So you were talking about character, and I think when back to some of my first jobs, I immediately ran into issues where I was being asked to do things that I felt were against the rules or against the law, and I often ended up leaving the positions. But I don't think that was necessarily the best way to handle it. And I'm wondering what thoughts you have to give these new graduates about how to handle when you have those conflicts.
Well, again, I think that you will always have those dilemmas, and you know, what you always need to do is conduct yourself as if no one else was watching you. And I think if you do that and use your instincts and use the efforts that you put forward here to develop yourself with the skill sets and other behaviors to be successful, you need to have that conversation between your heart and your mind and operate as if no one was watching. And if you do that, you're usually going to go in the right direction and the right path as well. So I like that. And again, trust in my word. That's one thing. But also ensure that when you are working in those dilemmas, make sure that you do it as if no one was watching. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's the toughest decision you've ever made? You laid out a couple of scenarios, but a decision that maybe you knew had to be made in the near future, and it kept you up at night and you worried through it.
Well, you know what keeps me up at night here at this university is to ensure the safety of our students, without a doubt. That to me is job one. I think we have the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we have a safe and secure workplace, safe and secure learning environment for our students and those that choose to be here at the university. So whenever I thrust into a position of making those choices, especially when it comes to the safety of our students, I want to make sure that we do it in the right way to ensure that that integrity of the institutions kept whole as well. We have our own personal integrity, of course, but as a leader, you're also responsible for the integrity of the mission, the integrity of the people that we're involved with. And I'm going to share just with you one of the strengths that goes a little bit to that regard, but I learned a lot from a Jim Loy, for instance, of his 3 Ps of planning, preparing, and performing. He would always say that time and again. And as a continuous learner, in leadership in particular, we had a great visitor who's the CEO of DTE, Jerry Anderson. And he, I don't know if anyone was there at the Seaman breakfast. I think it was really wonderful. And he added 2 more Ps to my model and Jim Loy's model, that you connect people and purpose. And you do that, I think you have a great model then to overcome some of those challenges we have, whether it be safety or whether it be doing things that might not just be right because you don't feel it. But I like that model that a mentor like Jim Loy was able to share, and then continued to be a continuous learner when I heard that from Jerry Anderson from TTE. So, but thank you very, very much for attention and my sense of what a successful, virtuous leader is. And our students that are here, you will do it. There's no doubt in my mind. Thank you.
Tom, I'm not going to let you go without one last time thanking you for your leadership and service to this university. You got Ralph, you got Peter all the way through. They were dear friends of yours and Marcia's, and you exemplified the kind of leadership that made them proud that you were here. And so we can't let you leave without giving you a lifetime supply of Ralph Hallenstein's goldfish crackers. We're going to send you on your way.
Thank you. Okay, I see this tonight. We'll open up this for our granddaughter. I think Pendleton will like this, don't you think? I think so. All right, and we'll remember Ralph, but thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks, Scott. Great job. Thank you. Yes, Rachel, Florida, I think you have an announcement.
Thank you, President Haas. Thank you for giving us insights, wisdom, and hope. Please join me in another round of applause. This concludes the public portion of this evening's program, and all of us at the Hallenstein Center and at its Cook Leadership Academy want to say thank you to everybody here. We are always grateful for your attendance and your role in forming a community that cares about leadership and common ground. Although Grand Valley's official graduation is happening later this weekend, the Hallenstein Center isn't quite done with events this year. We have 3 fantastic programs coming up. On May 23rd is the Hidden Wounds of War Conference. On May 29th, at the annual Econ Club dinner, we will confer upon Ambassador Nikki Haley the Colonel Ralph W. Hallenstein Fellowship. And finally, on May 30th and 31st, we host our 5th annual Midwestern History Conference. At this time, we'll be taking a brief break so that we can transition from this public program to our private CLA graduation. I would like to remind the following groups to please stay close as we will begin our graduation ceremony in 10 minutes. The following groups are our Cook Leadership Academy Fellows, mentors, alumni, and your invited guest, as well as Hallenstein Center donors and members. CLA graduates, we ask that you line up against this far wall in alphabetical order during the break. Again, thank you for attending tonight's Wheelhouse Talk. We hope to see you at more of our events very soon. Have a wonderful evening.